Good morning, everyone. I hope the screen is visible to all of you.
Yes.
Yes, it
I can see many people have joined. We welcome you all.
Hi, Jairaj.
Hi, Simi. Professor Simi, after a long time.
I know it's such a fantastic thing, Jairaj, to have you
Ye-
here. It's been such a long time,
Yeah,
really.
that's true. That's true. That's true.
I
Yeah.
know. How are things, Jairaj? How are things going?
Yeah, everything is going smoothly now. Af-
Yes.
After a long gap.
I
I,
know. I know. All our Indian folklore congresses have kind of,
yes, 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 yes.
yeah.
Correct.
But it's fantastic work that you're doing, Jairaj. So,
Right, 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 right.
hi, Saroj. Maybe we can mute themselves, probably.
Somebody has opened the mic
Yeah.
or devices, login two devices.
Saruj, Professor Katimani and Professor Asaduddin need to join for us to start, right? Maybe you can message them.
Good morning, Saroj. Sun looking very bright and
Good
happy.
morning, good morning.
Hi, Simi.
Nashad.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Simi. Hi, Saroj.
Hi, Amina.
Balram, I guess you need to mute yourself. Please mute yourself, Balram.
I am.
Inderpreet, probably when we begin, you can make this announcement that only those who are speaking need to keep themselves unmuted. The rest must all mute, otherwise there's interference.
Sure, ma'am. Sir, you're muted.
Our chief guest will be joining in 5 minutes. So it's good that all of us are here, and I can see uh, our department people.
Till Professor Katimani joins, if there are any instructions that Saroj, you or Indrapreet or Balram or Shreya, anybody needs to make, then they can probably do so. We can use
Yeah, I think in terms of instructions, all of us know. I think that in the virtual mode, the new, as they say, Navachar, a new conduct, new code. So all of us are already into it. 2 or 3 years almost done. So I don't think there is much to be instructed about. But then, yeah, all of us have to keep it muted unless we are speaking. So that is something that actually helps all of us. And otherwise, I think everything is fine.
Yes, I would like to make an announcement. We will be recording today's program, and since Google Meet has limited number of participants, so it will be live streamed for our audience on the Facebook page of International Conference. So I think you can see the link in the chat box. You're requested to kindly like the page and watch the live stream on Facebook.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, sir is there. Sir is there. Sir is there. In the pit, we can start.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes.
I request all the participants to kindly mute yourself. Okay. Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined us from Jamia and from various fields of learning across the world. I, Inderpreet, a PhD scholar in the Department of English, welcome you all on behalf of the organizing committee of this two-day international conference on folk traditions and forms in India, organized by Department of English and Jamia Millia Islamia. Jamia Millia this two-day international multi-layered educational institution that made a modest beginning in 1920 at Aligarh. The university has been benchmarking its teaching and research processes by increasing its interface with foreign educational institutions through faculty exchange, student exchange, joint research, joint conference, and joint publication. Internationalizing the university is being given top priority. Department of English is one of the oldest departments of the university. It strives to create a human universe that offers inclusiveness, equity, fellowship, justice, and peace for one and all. It's a truly transformative institution in the life of the Indian nation. Jamia Millia Islamia has completed 100 years of its existence in 2020. It got NAC accreditation with grade A++ in December 2021. Since the inception, the vision of the Department of English has been to strive for academic excellence and to advance research expertise in the core areas of English studies, expanding the canon by incorporating translation studies, culture studies, comparative studies, gender studies, and studies in margins. I'm proud to be a part of this department. So moving forward, now I would like to invite our versatile, dynamic head of the department, Professor Simi Malhotra, who will deliver the welcome note. It's an honor to introduce Professor Simi Malhotra. She's a highly acclaimed academician and scholar. Her area of specialization includes contemporary literary and cultural theory, culture studies with special focus on postmodernism, folk cultural forms, Indian philosophies, and aesthetic practices, especially Sikhism, with some publications in this area. She has been awarded 2020 DUO India Professor Fellowship Award by ASEM DUO in 2020. She has been awarded grant under Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India sponsored SPARK. She is also the director at the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Jamia Millia Islamia. Currently, she is also the director at the Center for Northeast Studies and Policy Research at Jamia Millia Islamia. I would like to invite Professor Simi Malhotra to deliver a welcome note. Simi ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Inderpreet. I'm officiating in the as the director of Center for Northeast Studies only for today. So, but yeah, thank you. I really was not expecting that introduction. I really was hoping to welcome everybody. But thank you, Inderpreet, for that wonderful opening of this fantastic conference. So, on behalf of the Department of English at Jamia Millia Islamia and the organizers, I extend a very, very warm welcome to all of you to this this two-day international conference on folk traditions and forms in India. We're indeed privileged to have with us Professor T.V. Katimani, Vice Chancellor of Central Tribal University of Andhra Pradesh, who's also been a Vice Chancellor previously of IGNTU. And of course, we all know he's a rare combination of an academic and an administrator who's translated from all kinds of languages. One wonders how he packs in all that he does in the busy schedule that he keeps. It's also my pleasure and privilege to welcome a very dear old friend of mine, Dr. Jayarajan, who's the chairman of Folkland International Center for Folk and Culture at Kasaragod, Kerala. The less said, what can I say about Dr. Jairaj? Dr. Jairaj's life has been devoted actually to the to folk studies. I mean, right from the 1990s, from late 80s actually, and from 90s and 2000s, and for all these many decades, Dr. Jairaj and his commitment and his scholarship is something which is exemplary in the field of folk studies and folk life and folk forms. And there could not have been a better keynote speaker for our conference than Dr. Jairaj, and we're really looking forward to his address. I also welcome, of course, the Dean of our faculty, Professor Asaduddin, all my dear colleagues and friends from the Department of English and from other departments of Jamia. And of course, I must at this point of time record my deep gratitude to Professor Saroj Mahananda and Dr. A.C. Karingpam and all other colleagues and all research scholars from the department who've been working very hard to put together this absolutely fantastic conference. I have no doubt about the fact that this conference is going to be intellectually extremely enriching for all the participants. We are aware of the fact that we received an overwhelming response for this conference, and it was such a hard task, as I know, from the kind of hours that Professor Mahananda and Dr. Karingpam and their team of scholars have been putting in actually trying to give space to trying to give space to everybody. Professor Katimani, I'm really sorry. Mute yourself. Mute yourself. Right. Professor Katimani, could you please mute yourself for just a minute?
Sir, control, sir.
Sir, you have to mute yourself. It's echoing.
Yeah. Right. I'm sorry about that, Professor Katimani. Yeah, but I think because of too many mics being on, there's interference. But so as I was saying that, I mean, we've received an overwhelming response for this conference, which just tells us about the health of this particular area of inquiry of folk traditions and folk forms in India. And so I'm pretty sure that this conference of 2 days is going to be very, very enriching for all the participants. I welcome all the participants who have joined us from different parts of India and, of course, from abroad as well. And on that note, I welcome all of you to this conference, and it's such a pleasure and privilege for us to get to host the Vice Chancellor, to host Dr. Jairaj, to host all the different participants who are going to be presenting their work and sharing their work with all of us, and to all those who've agreed to chair, and to all my dear colleagues and all my dear researchers from the department. I welcome all of you to this absolutely fantastic feast of a program which we have laid before you for the next 2 days. So a very warm welcome to all of you. Over to you, Inderpreet. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's always a pleasure to hear you and speak. Now I will welcome the convener of this conference, Professor Saroj Kumar Mahananda from the Department of English, to introduce the theme of the conference to all of us. Professor Saroj Kumar Mahananda's areas of interest includes Dalit literature and historiography, Patrick White's fiction, 19th century English literature, Indian writing in English, aesthetics and translation, Oriya Dalit literature, and folk literature and folk studies. He has authored many books, including Life in the Fringes, Aborigines in Patrick White's Wars, Riders in Chariot and Fringe of Leaves, Dalit literature and historiography, caste reality and mediation, to name a few. He has also translated the short stories and non-fiction prose of Premchand from Hindi to English under the aegis of UGC SAB DRS program in the Department of English, Jamia Millia Islamia. Some of his research papers includes Towards an Understanding of Identity in Literature, Vasudev Sunani's poetry, Sight for Dalit History, Casting, Decasting, Identity, the Gandhas of Western Orissa. He has delivered numbers of lectures across the nation. He has also been the honorary coordinator of outreach program, NEP coordinator, and research advisor at the Department of English, Jamia Millia Islamia. It's a pleasure to invite Professor Saroj Kumar Mahananda. Saroj, sir, please.
Thank you so much, Inderpreet. That was a very generous introduction. Honorable Chief Guest of the occasion, Vice Chancellor of the Central University of Andhra Pradesh, Professor T.V. Katimani ji. Respected keynote speaker, Chairman of the Folkland of the International Folklore and Culture Society of Kerala, Dr. V. Jayarajan ji. Respected and beloved Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Languages, Jamia Millia Islamia, and the senior most colleague of our department, Professor Asaduddin Saab. Respected head of my department and dear colleague, Professor Simi Malhotra. Assembled all colleagues and friends from Jamia and outside of Jamia, students, participants, researchers. Let me bow down, before I begin, let me bow down to your august presence here. And although one would like to go ahead, I must take this, as I consider this to be my honor to put before you the theme of the conference. You see, we have very erudite speakers, Professor Katimani ji and Jayarajan ji. So in front of them, of course, I would not take much time. So I would just kind of briefly put together things what it is. So, and I would start with the kind of journey that I had. The journey is the folk. How I started with the journey with folk. In the journey with the folk actually begins with the very term itself. What is folk? What do we mean by folk? And when we talk about folk, it literally translates into something people. So when it means people, then everybody is people, all of us are people. Is folk related to only people, or in the sense of popular? Because there is something called popular studies too. And so folk studies and popular studies, they are similar in terms of their nature and practice. So these are some of the concepts that immediately come to our mind. But and that's how when we talk about folk, many people think about it in different terms. So someone talks about in those binary like the formality, formal, informal, common and elite, and then oral or the written narratives. So all these things, folklore studies, folk songs, folk music, folk dance, folk culture, folk art, folk tradition, all these things, the related terms come into our mind. So when we have these, then we begin to see when did this folk come to exist, or what was the beginning time, or how was the journey like throughout, not just my own, but every other journey. It is said that the modern folk studies begins in the West in 19th century. But prior to that, what was the situation? The situation, was there any folk studies in India? When I look at that aspect, then of course it immediately takes me to another similar sounding word, folk, which translates kind of literally to Hindi or in Indian languages, loka. So loka, folk would loosely translate into loka. If loka is said to be the kind of loose translation of folk, then in India we had in the ancient time there was something called lokayata. So, but then other people who say it is the realm of the popular studies or something. So, lokayata means lokeshu ayata, prevalent among the people. So, was this a kind of beginning of folk studies or popular studies in lokayata in ancient time? There is a huge road ahead to discuss and things about to know about things, because whether it was folk studies or whether it was not folk studies, but definitely it was something related to the people. And because again in the ancient India we had something called Gana. Gana means Ganarajya. All of us know democracy is known as translated into Ganarajya. So Gana, and we had all those different Ganas. And also we also have something called, we have in the pantheon of Hindu mythology we have a deity called Ganesh. So Ganesh, that means the Ishta Devata, or the deity who is the god of the Gana. So people, God's people, people's god. So people in that sense is there in different sphere in the mythology, in religion, in culture, in other critical exercises. So that's how folk was there since quite for some time. Although we may not have that kind of folk studies as such, but definitely it was there. So when I look at that trajectory, then I see, then what is the situation now? The situation now is, all of us see, as modernization and all these things are happening, and organization, modernization, and all computerization, or maybe westernization, and whatever terms that one may have. So with that, have we lost out our folk tradition, folk culture, folk music, and all those things related folk? Have we lost out somewhere, or have we not been able to do something? Because we see them everywhere. It's part of us. But somehow I think our educational atmosphere, or maybe our studies, our university campuses, probably do not do that much of engagement, academic engagement, as they are supposed to do. So that's how, with that premise, in that backdrop, my journey and our journey, collective journey, begins. So in this, we had asked for these papers. We had asked for the papers in broad themes, and broad themes were folklore, legend, myth, and history, comparative folklore theory, cultural consciousness and folk traditions, folklore and communication, folk culture and tradition, folk identity, art, performance, folklore and globalization, poetic, practical and ethical sides of folklore or folk traditions, regional variations in folk tradition. Because I come from Sambalpur, so, and Sambalpur is in some way center of Sambalpuri culture. All of us know Sambalpuri sari, all of us Sambalpuri dance. So that's how I am somewhere kind of born and brought up in that cultural folk tradition. So that takes me, and not just Sambalpur, there is Manipuri tradition, Western, Gujarati tradition, Kashmiri tradition, Tamil tradition, Kerala tradition. So throughout the length and breadth of the country, we have this variety of traditions. So that's how when we brought out this concept note, we actually started kind of throwing up these things, and many people and our participants have responded tremendously well. And we had, as Professor Simi was saying, we had 86 papers, and it was really tough time actually selecting some of them and rejecting many of them. So this was the brief kind of introduction to the theme of the conference. So this is how we are going, and in order to have this 2 days journey, we have had these thematic clusters in terms of gender, in terms of folk, this myth and legend and something, and then the regional variations Northeast. We have got 2 sessions for Northeast, folk traditions for Northeast. So like that, we have had all these 10 sessions, 10 academic sessions, and we are going to have 10 academic sessions, and in between there is one performative session that we have planned. So this is all about this right now. I will not take much time. Thank you so much, and all of us are looking forward to now to Professor Katimani ji and Dr. Jayarajan ji. Thank you, Indrapreet.
Thank you so much, sir. I personally feel, sir, that this is a subject in which we should all be deeply interested. Finally, the time has arrived to invite a great visionary of the nation, a great academician and scholar who is none other than Professor T.V. Katimani ji, who is with us as a guest in today's event. Katimani sir is the honorary vice chancellor of Central Tribal University of Andhra Pradesh. Before I invite him, I would like to grab the opportunity to say a few words about him. Professor Katimani held various academic as well as administrative positions in the various universities and important companies of the Government of India. He is a member of National Curriculum Framework, Government of India, a member of National Education Policy, Government of India, expert member EQUIP, Government of India, and member of Standing Committee of Tribal Welfare, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Government of India. He was Vice Chancellor at Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, Amarkantak, Madhya Pradesh from 2014 to 2019. Professor Katimani is Chair of the Board of Governors at Fund Institute of Social Sciences, University of Allahabad, Uttar Pradesh, as well as member of Sahitya Academy, General Secretary, New Delhi. These are some important positions held by him. He visited foreign countries such as Sweden, Norway, Finland with Honorable President of India as member of Education Delegation. He has published 15 books, 37 research papers, and translated more than 20 books. One can go on, but considering his academic stature, and since we are bound by the constraint of time, therefore, with these words and with great respect and honor, I invite Professor T.V. Katimaniji to deliver his address as a guest of honor.
Thank
Professor.
you. Thank you, Inderpreet. Thank you very much for very elaborative uh, introduction. As rightly said by Professor Saroj, you are very generous. Thank you very much. Professor Simi Malhotra, Professor Saroj Mahananda, Professor Jayaranjan, all my colleagues, professors, dean, teachers, research scholars, friends, student friends. Thank you very much for inviting me. I must tell the August House that I am not a professor of Hindi. I am not a professor of English. I am a professor of Hindi. And my mother tongue is not English or Hindi. My mother tongue is Kannada. But always academic accidents will happen. It is an academic accident that you have invited me, and I have taken the risk always, as usual, to talk to you. It is one way. I am here to learn from your side what English world, what English professors, English students are talking about folklore, folk stories, and what they mean about folklorist. Since I have been trained to know tribes, downtrodden communities, women, transgenders, people from difficult areas. So I thought folklore means folk means people, group of people or single people or maybe 100 people. Women folk we used to call, students folk, tribal folk, Dalit folk, transgender folk, poor folk, elite folk. In IIC Delhi, only elite folk we can find these things. And at the same time, the people from rural part of the country, of any country, they have rich tradition of folk. They have rich tradition of stories. They have rich tradition of orality. Since I was member of NEP 2020, we have discussed the issue of orality initiated by me, that Indian knowledge system, definitely it is preserved in written form. Veda, Upanishad, Mahabharata, Ramayana, epics, and that's all. But Indian knowledge system, Indian culture is very rich, very strong in oral history also, oral folk also. That we have to consider. The knowledge system is continuously available in folk stories, in folk songs. In my younger age, maybe I was a lecturer in a university college. I have been nominated to a new university in Karnataka called Kannada University. It is now 36 years old university. A legendary writer was a folklorist also, Chandrasekhar Kambar. All you know him, his name. He is now heading Sahitya Academy, New Delhi, Central Sahitya Academy, a Gyanpit Award. There, I learned many things from people like you all, that yes, we have a rich tradition of folk songs, stories. These people, folklorists, who are creating folk, who are creating folk stories, who are creating folk songs, they never gone to school. They doesn't have any teacher, no guru for them. Then who were their guru? The nature was their guru. The folk, a group of people who were singing, the group of women who were chit-chatting. The folklorist, if they talk, it is poetry. If they chit-chat, it is epic. There will be a story. There will be a history. There will be a mythology. And we, modern people, educated in English, educated in Hindi, educated in Kannada, educated in Telugu, in Urdu, or in the science streams, we have to look into the folklore stories. Even the historians, I researched in my mother tongue Kannada about a freedom fighter, a tribal freedom fighter. There are stories in the written stories in the history, Kannada history, that he was a robber. He was a robber, and he used to exploit women. Contrary, there are folk songs, folk stories. He was a Robin Hood, saying that he was a Robin Hood. He used to take money from rich people and distribute to the poor people of the same village. He used to protect the women, young women, naturally, women from the downtrodden communities, from the exploiters of the same village. The exploiters wrote the history of Sindhura Lakshmana, that he was an exploiter, robber. But the folklore, the folk stories are telling how he was a great warrior, how he was always fighting for freedom of motherland, how he fought against Jamkhandi, king, who was an agent of English government. So here, folklore, folk history, folk songs, folk myths will come to our risk to document the proper history of our own society. So folklore is not only song, is not only myth, it is not only something through how we can enjoy. No, it is not only enjoyment, it is history also, it is sociology also, it is political science also. Dr. Jaipal Singh Munda, a tribal leader of Jharkhand, who was member of Constituent Assembly, while debating, he addressed the August House that I am a jungli. We are jungli people, we are born democrats. Please don't try to teach democracy to jungli people. Try to learn democracy from tribals. What he said is folklore. What Jaipal Singh Munda said is a folklore. The history, the modern history, the modern sociology, modern science, physics, chemistry, mathematics, we have to reshape our way of thinking by learning, by training ourselves in folklore. That in folklore, everything is available. In Chota Nagpur Plateau, where Tata's has opened first iron ore factory, is a center of folklore, is a center of stories. Mundas have their own stories and folklore. Ho tribe, they have their own folklore. Mundas, they have their own folklore. Odia tribes, they have their own folk history and folklore, folk stories. I request the Indian folklorists, experts, especially Professor Jayaranjan, please look into the folklore in the original shape which is available in the forest, or in the borders of forest, or in the banks of river Brahmaputra, upper part of Assam, where folklore is very much available, untouched. That missing tribe of Assam, they know the modern scientists of this missing tribe, philosophers of missing tribe who are working in many respected universities in India or out of India. They, I know many people, they have been inspired by their folklore, have been inspired their morals, ethics of their tribe. Women of India, irrespective of caste, creed, and community, they have their own folklore. They have their own, the tradition of folklore. One lady, I maybe 24 years back, I met one lady. Her name was her name is Siriaji, a Golla tribe of Andhra Pradesh. The Sampurna Mahabharata, the whole Mahabharata from evening to morning, she used to recite in her own mother tongue. And in that Mahabharata, many new links were included. The local history, local poverty, local richness, that harvest, many crops, many seasons, and the tragedies of women, Devdasi system, everything was included. So when I was there in that Kannada University, I requested the Chandrasekhar Kambati, the university should document and publish it. The house will be happy to know such 24 volumes were published. 24 volumes were published in Kannada, and out of 24, 8 are tribal epics of Kannada. Tribal epics, the pure tribal epics, Male Mahadeshwara Katha, like that. Junjappana Katha, like that. So, the canvas of folklore can be extended if you are ready to go to tribal land. You are ready to go again. You are ready to revisit tribal land. I don't mean that you never visited. You might have visited many times, but the women of tribes, the women of all folk, can be again reached. Can be again reached. For example, I will give another one example. I will try to complete my words. Indian culinary art, the oldest culinary recipe is available in Indian women folk. The modern women, because of the rat race competition, we don't have time to practice, but we have that knowledge system along with us. Our grandmas who were used to tell what to prepare, what not to prepare, at what season what to be prepared, in what season what not to be prepared, how a single recipe can treat 4 patients at a time. This is folklore. The medicinal practices of rural India, the medicinal practices of tribal India, the medicinal practices of Dalit India, the medicinal practices of women India has to be relooked with this introduction. With these few words, I conclude here, and I am very much here up to the end of this program to know more about folklore and what are your emotions and what are your new look about folklore, folk stories and folk songs, how these folk stories, folk songs can heal up our modern difficulties. Tenali Rama is the best healer of the world. Panchatantra is the best psychological book of the world. Only thing is, as rightly said by our PM, we have to vocal about our local. Thank you very much. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. We are really indebted to have you among us. In India, for over 1,000 years, orality dominated. Today, culture is not just enjoyment, it is history. As rightly said by Professor Katimani ji, it is political science, it is social science, it is history. Also, sir discussed about the medicinal practices of tribal India, rural India, women in India. He discussed about the recipe, and we find it really interesting. Thank you so much, sir. It was such an enriching and enlightening interaction. I'm certain that all the people present here are moved by your inspiring words. Thank you again, sir. On this occasion, we are really honored to have Dr. V. Jayarajan among all of us. He is the chairman of Folkland, International Center for Folk and Culture, Kerala. He will deliver the keynote address. He is an advocate turned researcher and has a passion for art and cultural heritage. He has served as an expert committee member of the Department of Culture, Government of India, and also advisor to Sangeet Natak Academy, New Delhi. He had worked as the vice president of the Indian Folklore Congress and presently working as the secretary of Society for Indian Medical Anthropology. He is also the convener of Indian National Trust for Art and Culture Heritage Kasargarh. Professor Dr. V. Jayarajan has visited several foreign countries to represent Indian culture and made lectures in several academic and cultural institutions in and out of India. He represents Folkland in ICH conventions and meetings of UNESCO since 2010. He has conducted several types of research on folklore and intangible cultural heritage and has presented several research papers in national and international seminars and conferences. We welcome you, sir. Looking forward to hear you and speak. Dr. V. Jayarajan. Sir, you're muted. You need to unmute.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, good morning to all. Respected Professor TV Katimani, Vice Chancellor of Central Tribal University, who is the chief guest of the occasion. Professor Saroj Kumar Mahananda, who is the convener of the organizing committee. Professor Simi Malhotra, head of the department English. I have known her for long. I am happy that she still remembers me. We had attended several Indian folklore congresses during 90s and 2000, early part of 2000. Yes. Also, Professor Asaduddin, Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Languages, Jamia Millia University, chairpersons, panelists, keynote speakers, paper presenters for the 2-day seminar, scholars and students of Jamia Millia Islamia University, and listeners. It's a great honor, and I feel proud to be a part of this important international conference on folklore, because I have been working in folklore for the last 35 years. For this, I have to thank Dr. Sharat Kumar Jana, who really brought me here. Inderpreet Kaur for her excellent introduction. Yes, today I am talking about the regional variations of Indian folk traditions. Professor Katimani has already mentioned about the folklore, several ranas of folklore in different parts of India, and he has given some suggestions to study how to study folklore, how to document all these things. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Today I am talking about the regional variations of Indian folk tradition, but I cannot talk too much because the time is very limited. As you all know, it is not an easy thing to tell different regional variations in half an hour or 1 hour or even a day, because India is very vast. The tradition is very, very vast here. So we can start with some linguistic point of view. The Indian subcontinent features very rich cultural diversity. All 4 major languages, Indo-European, Dravidian, Tibeto-Burman, and Austro-Asiatic, all major linguistic traditions are in India. So, but when we study the 4 traditions, we will not be able to study everything. We have several other groups also, subgroups. Uh, as per the 2011 census report, India has 19,569 languages or dialects in India. Even there are few languages which has less than 10,000 speakers in India, which are in the verge of extinction. Those languages are in the verge of extinction. The linguistic diversity is reflected in the cultural diversity of equal magnitude. That is very important. Another RANA is folk literature. We can see Professor has already told about the different traditions, singing traditions, oral narratives. That is also we have to look into it. We can see the very first traces of folklore are traced back in medieval Indian literature. Though the earliest works in many of the regional languages were sectarian, designed to advance or celebrate some orthodox regional belief. So we have examples in Tamil literature. We have Sangam literature, for example. We have Sangam literature is very, very vast, and a lot of Ahananur is there, Purananur is there, Aham Kavitagal, we call it Aham poems. Purananur is Tulkapiyam, the grammar text is also very, very rich repository of Indian traditional knowledge. Bengali literature, for example, Charyapadas, we have in Bengal. We have Tantric verses of 12th century, and the Leela Charita in Marathi. In Kannada also, we have lots of, as he has already told about the Malay Madheshwara tradition. We have lots of such traditions in Karnataka, in Kerala, the 10th century, and later Gujarat in 19th century. The primary, the truly indigenous works. And we have another tradition of Jain romances. The lives of Jain saints. These are the popular tales based on Sanskrit, and that is limited in Sanskrit and Pali texts. Another example, when we go to Rajasthan, we have another examples of bardic tales of chivalry and heroic resistance to the primary Muslim invasions, like 12th century heroic poem. We have Prithviraj Raso by Chand Bardai of Lahore. Most important of all, or later Indian literature were first traces in the vernacular languages of North Indian cults of Krishna and Rama. It is also very important. We have a very long tradition of Sri Rama or Krishna traditions. Ramayanas, for example, we have written Ramayanas and unwritten Ramayanas. Hundreds. We have already collected, and Ramanujan has said 300 Ramayanas, and we have even sometimes we have more Ramayanas. Hundreds of Ramayanas are there. And in those traditions, it's not a written tradition, and we have only oral narratives, and we have Patachitra traditions also, scroll painting traditions of Ramayana too. Yes. And when we go to Odisha, we have a Jayadeva tradition, tradition of Gita Govinda, cowherd song, and gaggle of spiritual love poems written in Maithili, for example. When we go to Bihar, we have that sort of tradition, Maithili tradition. And the poet Vidyapati was a seminal influence on the cult of Radha Krishna in Bengal. And Bhakti tradition as folk literature. Bhakti tradition has great role in folk literature. Bhakti movement songs added to the vernacular flavor. In those days, Sanskrit was understood all over India, but was mainly restricted to the upper caste aesthetics. It is not known to all. Similarly, we have the folk traditions, we have the tribal traditions. They are also doing the same thing. They are also narrating the songs in their own language, in their own regional language or ethnic language. Yeah. In Tamil, we have a Bhakti tradition. Bhakti poets were there. In Karnataka, we had the Bhakti poets. In Maharashtra, Gujarat, and everywhere we have the Bhakti movements, and they cultivated devotional songs, and it has other folk ranas like performances and oral traditions, pictograms, scroll painting traditions, and many other. So at the same time, we had local heroes and demons, and they are all treated as gods among the folk community. Take for example, in Kerala we have a very good Theyyam tradition, mainly in two districts, Kasaragod and Kannur district. We have thousands of Theyyams. They are gods, they are demigods, they are war heroes, deified war heroes, and victimized women, victimized heroines, we can say. And even there are worships like tree worship. We have snake worship, and these are all treated as gods. Local people previously, in olden times, local people never worshipped the Puranic gods like Rama or Shiva or Sri Krishna. So they had their own gods, local gods. They are war heroes. After their death, they became gods. And even ancestors, they worshipped ancestors. After their death, they have to worship. In every year, they are performed as a culture of Theyyam. Theyyam is being performed as an ancestor worship, and serpent worships, as I told you. And we have tree worship. We have even nature. Even the nature is being worshipped. Yeah, and each caste, each tribe has their own gods. The professor has already told about the one tribal tradition, Munda. Birsa Munda's tradition he has already mentioned. And everywhere when we go to every place, we can see one kind of tribal heroes who are worshipped after their death. Folk dances, another rana is folk dances of India. How many varieties of folk dances? How many varieties of folk dances here? Each village has its own tradition of folk dancing tradition, and it has functions also. It is not just for entertainment. Folk dances are not for entertainment at all. They have their own functions to cure the diseases, to ward off these spirits, evil spirits, and to commemorate the deities, war heroes like Theyyam and all. So these are the practices, and sometimes it's for the for the benefit, for their enjoyment also, like kolata or stick dances. So some dances have its own function as entertainment. Yeah. see the inexhaustible variety of folk dances of India are a large body of unrelated, non-classical dance forms characterized by their spontaneity and the cultural nourishment and respite they provide through directness of expression, collective ageless wisdom, and the profundity of conception. The Indian folk dance can be divided or classified into social folk dances. Even we know Jagrana from Jammu and Kashmir, performed during the post-wedding ritual. And the wedding is also another ceremony in which we can see lots of folk dances. And Jago dance of Punjab, performed in the night before the wedding. Yes, it is in the wedding eve or the marriage eve they performed this Jago. And Chatti dance of Haryana, which is also performed in the sixth day of birth of a male child. If there's a male child, there's a dance. It's called Chatti dance. And we all know Dandiya of Gujarat, the Dunuchi Nach of West Bengal, and it's all performed during the Navratri season. And Baun Nritya of West Bengal, it's a newly wedded bride welcoming the ceremony. And very famous Lavani dance of Maharashtra, the Chro dance of or the bamboo dance from Mizoram, Kolata from Tamil Nadu, and the same Kolata can be seen in Karnataka too. That is, the similar version is seen in Kerala. It's called Kolkali. And we have a Silambatam from Tamil Nadu. We have Uiratam from Tamil Nadu. Kali Natya from Pondicherry, Puducherry. So each and every it's not even a state. So in a state we have lots of such dances. In Kasaragod district we can see one kind of dance. In Kannur district we cannot see the same type of dance. But when we go to Calicut we will see another dance. That's the case of almost all places of India. And agricultural folk dances is another rane of folk dance tradition. Rough dance of Jammu and Kashmir, performed during the harvest season. Baishagi from Punjab, it's a wheat harvesting season. We are doing that. And Lure dance of Haryana, signifying the sowing of rabi crops. Nabana, which is a ritualistic dance after the autumn harvest, and the Tushu dance from West Bengal, the agriculture. So it is not even an entertainment. The dancers is bowed to the nature. They dance for the accomplishment of their agricultural activity. So they bow, or it's a kind of worshipping the nature. We can see that. And Hurka Bowl dance of Uttarakhand is another example of maize harvesting. So maize is almost dried out. We cannot see that sort of activity now, but still that dance is there. The Bihu dance, the very famous Bihu dance of Assam. So everybody knows that. And the Biju dance, the similar kind can be seen in Tripura. It's called Biju dance. Lambadi dance of Andhra. It's also very famous. Lambadi Banjara tribes. It is almost, it's the Banjara tribe can be seen almost all parts of India, and the Andhra Lambadi dance is very famous. And Nongkrim dance of Meghalaya is another example. Geria dance of Tripura. And Godgeria, it's a worship of Godgeria after the harvest, or the June cultivation. The Tripura June cultivation is very, very important, and they have the space for dancing. And yes, of course, we have during the Onam season in Kerala, we have Tiruvadrakali after the harvest, and we have several other festivals after the harvest in Kerala too. And there are another kind of dance is seasonal folk dances. That is Gidda dance of Punjab during Lohri, the Gobi dance of Andhra Pradesh during Makar Sankranti, the Tiyan dance of Punjab, and the Badu dance of Badu dance of West Bengal, performed by women during the monsoons. Likewise, the Tiruvadra Kali during the Tiruvadra that performed in the month of January or February in Kerala. Examples of folk dances include Bawai or Akhyana from Gujarat, Jatra from West Bengal, which originated from Sri Chaitanya's Bhakti movement. And we have Yakshagana. While we come to Karnataka, we have Yakshagana tradition. Yakshagana tradition started from Andhra Pradesh, but now we can see the Yakshagana performance is very rich in south and northern Karnataka. It has two traditions. One is Badagatittu and the other is Tingutittu. One is northern tradition and the other is southern tradition. So two traditions. And inside those traditions, we have several other groups also. Anyway, Terikuthu is there. Terikuthu in Tamil Nadu. We can see street performance in Tamil Nadu. And Tamasha from Maharashtra. But it was very prevalent during the freedom struggle. Tamasha dance forms, Tamasha performance. It's not even dance. It has Lavani as dance form. Bandpatar from Kashmir, and another section is when we can take it into a theater's field. It is puppetry. It is also very important. Puppetry tradition is very important. We have lots of puppeteers. We have lots of puppet traditions. String puppets are there, and leather puppets are there. Shadow puppets. Leather puppets are shadow puppets. It is very prevalent in Kerala and some parts of Karnataka and some other parts of Andhra also. These leather puppets are very prevalent in Orissa, Rajasthan, Kerala, Andhra. So all these states we have that puppet tradition. And as I told you, one is leather puppets, and we have string puppets and glow puppets. Those traditions are also there. Glow puppet is a very small type of puppets. I'm sorry, I cannot show the photographs as this is very this Google Meet. Only the admin can do the share the screens. I cannot do that. I'm very sorry. Otherwise, I would have shown almost all kinds of ranes. Anyway, those traditions, string puppet tradition and glow puppet tradition, leather puppet tradition, and we have in Kerala we have only one lady who is doing that. It's called a Noku Vidya. It's a technique. A stick is fixed on her upper mouth, and she can manipulate the puppets which is fixed on the long rod. It's very rare tradition. She was awarded the Padma Shri last year. So that sort of tradition, it's in the verge of extinction. No others are doing that. Only one or two artists who are doing that. And while coming to the other tradition, we have folk dances of religious nature. We have a lot of religious dance forms. Damali of Kashmir, it's a devotional song, and Fumania of Jammu again to protect the cattle and the children against the natural calamities. The cham dance and the Chanak dance performed by Buddhist monks of Ladakh, and we can see even the Buddhists. They are also doing a vast kind of dance forms and the music they are doing in Ladakh area. And it's all devotional. And performed in the monasteries during the festival. And route march of Uttar Pradesh. That's that is the revealing the relationship of Lord Krishna with his consort Radha and gopis. The Garba dance from Gujarat, performed during the Shakti Pujas or Navaratri. And Diodani dance of Odisha, dedicated to the goddess of snakes, Manasa. So that tradition is also there. And Kalambatu tradition, Kalameltu tradition in Kerala too. It's for worshipping of snake gods, Manasa in Odisha. And that goes up to Bengal and even northeastern states. So Dandanata of Orissa, invoking the blessing of Lord Shiva, and the Kali Silambu or Karagam dance of Tamil Nadu, another set of performance. And for invoking the rain goddess Mariamma and the river goddess Gangayamma. So these type of dances are also common in Tamil Nadu and elsewhere. So we have another set of folk performances, including mythological story-based theatrical performances. So Harikatha tradition is also there, narrating the stories of Lord Krishna. So that's it. And even Prahlada Charita is also very important in Odisha. So that narrative style of performance, it is also very well common in India. So I have to skip several forms here. I cannot include all here. Anyway, yeah. So we have when we go to the other set of dance forms, it's martial dance forms, Povadas of Maharashtra, which are based on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja's fighting or war, and the Bhattacharya Raibanis dance of Bengal. And it all has the acrobatics style of dancing, sham fighting and acrobatics of Ranpa, or stilted dance from West Bengal, the chow dance of West Bengal and Odisha. We have three types of chow dances. And see, another example is based on Mahabharata or based on Ramayana. So we have lots of dance forms or performances. The same type of dance is seen in Kerala too. That is Kalaripayattu. Kalaripayattu is a martial dance, a very famous martial dance form in Kerala. And we have Purakali, and we have Kolkali, that is again stick dances. So these are all have the link to the martial art tradition. And when we come to the another rane, that is community folk dance. So we can very well know Kalbalia dance by the snake charmer community of Rajasthan. They are very famous, and it has been recognized by the UNESCO in 2010. And Kachigodi dance of Shakavati region, and Kuliachi dance from of the fisher folk of Maharashtra, Ganga Baidya dance of snake charmers and maids of Bengal, and the Tayyam dance of Malayan, Vannan, Velan, Pulayan, Mavilan, and other communities. A similar type of Buddha dance of Karnataka. So these are all the community dances. And another set is magical religious folk dances for the purpose to ward off the evil spirits. Brita dance from West Bengal, which was traditionally performed by women to propitiate the angry deities when she was unable to give birth to a child. That is important. And Malayan Gattu, the same type of dance is seen in, or this similar type. It's not same. A similar type of magical religious dance is seen in Kerala to ward off the spirits who entered into the body of women folk and which kills the embryo. So we have to perform Malayankattu or Kantron Patu or Kalambatu. So there are the 3 or 4 types of magical religious dance forms. To ward off the evil spirit, then only she will be able to give birth of a child. So Konam Dullal is also there. And folk theatre, we have already narrated about the folk theatre also. Colorful assortment of Indian folk culture is best portrayed through the unique art of folk theatre, which reaches out to a large cross section of Indian population. Everywhere we can see some type of folk theatre styles. Many socio-cultural institutions nowadays are playing an important role for its revival. Folkland has already revived several folk theatre groups and propagation, and also government of India is also trying to propagate government messages through the folk theatre. Song and drama division is also there. By organizing, they organized seminars, workshops, and others. So the presence of Sutradhar is also important. Vidushak or the presence that's Vidushak and opening prayer, and they